All right, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on when you're watching this. This is going to be chapter 4 of a declassified CIA document of an NSA document. That's a bit redundant, I guess, in some capacities. And we're on chapter 4, which is page 47 of the document, but page 57 of the PDF itself as a whole. And this chapter is entitled ESP and Earlier Soviet Research. This isn't a long chapter, but it's got some interesting little bits of information that I'll further correlate and commentary and provide commentary on as it relates to the previous chapters, and then some of the overall pop culture stuff that we've all, or many of us, have seen and heard before, as well as religious or mystery school, mastery school type stuff. So let me just kick it off here. I've got two documents on the left. You can find those on your own using the numbers at the top of each document in the window itself. And like I said, like I've said in previous videos, there's just a lot of government and federal research into this. So I don't think it's a myth or a LARP using contemporary colloquialisms. So let's start with chapter 4. After a careful study of numerous CIA and FTD reports of Soviet ESP research, the following general information concerning such research was derived. Between 1960 and 1966, Russian ESP research went from a position of official toleration to considerable official support. The research plan of Russia research is reported to be to find out who are suitable subjects for ESP research, determine the proper conditions for successful ESP experiments, develop the biophysics of ESP, study the electromagnetic spectrum as a possible transmission source, study field and wave theories as they may be applicable to ESP, understand ESP from the cybernetics point of view. No detailed results of ESP experimental success have been published in recent open Soviet literature. However, the effort being expended by the Soviets in this field and the range of uses which they envision for ESP indicates that some meaningful results have been produced by their efforts. It is interesting to note that recent Soviet publications of ESP research have lacked the more detailed quality of the professional report and have tended to be more general and aimed at propagandizing. Well, it's weird that it says no detailed results, but then the next paragraph is, to note the recent Soviet publications. So I don't know what they would be publicizing through publications and why they would be doing it, unless someone felt there were, successes or positive results, especially when you have to go back to a larger group of body or a government and ask for money to continue on. Next paragraph. The amount of research effort being expended by the Soviets is indicated by the number of personnel and institutions apparently involved in ESP research. These include Moscow, Biological Information Section of Moscow Scientific Technical Society of Radio Engineering, Department of Technical Parapsychology, in parentheses. And then it gives a couple of institutions and doctors' names, or researchers' names rather. Another location, Leningrad University Telepathy Laboratory, 8 rooms in parentheses. Then it goes on to list some of the names I've already mentioned as well as new ones. 15 scientists in all for that one. And then Kyiv, Biocybernetics Department of the Institute of Cybernetics, Academy of Sciences, Ukraine, SSR, and 12 people in that group. That's a lot of people, a lot of research. So then we have a couple more locations. Omak, Sochi, Saratov, I don't know if that's Saratova, Tardy, I don't know where Tardy is, sounds awfully familiar to Tartaria, and Odessa. The following possibilities for using ESP are being considered by the Soviets. Some Soviet scientists consider that ESP could be accomplished with the help of a still unknown type of energy or factor inherent only to the highest form of development of matter. the substances and structure of the brain. The discovery of this type energy or factor would be the equivalent of the discovery of atomic energy. Some of these scientists feel an unknown energy, possibly akin to gravity and neutrinos, is involved. They also feel that in the future, machines on the moon or in the ocean will be controlled by thought. I think we can do that now with prosthetics. I'm pretty sure I've seen those experiments or that research. Such ideas are not mere idle speculation. This type of energy is considered seriously by such diverse minds as the Soviet N.A. Kozrev and the French scientist-philosopher Teilhard de Chardin. Experiments are carried out by Jules Eisbud, MD, in the United States, and Dr. Bernard Grad of Canada, tend to substantiate the theory that such energy exists. So with that, we also have some earlier well-known names like Wilhelm Reich, who postulated and speculated on orgone energy, which was somehow immediately correlated with sex magic and orgasm, and I think that wasn't his intention. He was just trying to show where a possible potential power source or source was coming from or how it related to us. We're going to go through another paragraph here. So Dr. Eugene B. Konisi, Director of Biotechnology and Human Research at NSA's, or NASA's actually, it's NASA's Office of Advanced Research and Technology, stated during the 14th Congress of the International Astronautical Federation, 1963 parentheses, that the Soviets are giving top priority toward the study of electromagnetic communications between living organisms under their manned space program. Dr. Konesi confirmed that NASA is pursuing similar research. A report, there's a name omitted or word or something, stated from the talks of the prominent scientists, I could gather that research in the field of telepathy is being conducted from the point of view of defense quite actively, particularly in the problem of transmission of information and in the problem of guiding the movement of intercontinental rockets using pigeons. This would be an emergency measure to counter jamming, intentional or unintentional. Presumably, the transmission of information could also be concerned with the transmission of Soviet agent communications or the intercept of Western defense information. Let me just go back to that pigeons being guided. To me, just having a little bit of experience and familiarity with some of the current consumer technology we have there, I think the idea there was that the pigeons would fly back and forth to their known locations, or point A to point B, and then thereby creating mobile radio units on each pigeon to guide the missile. Which, if we correlate that with today's technology, it's a matter of just flying a bunch of drones, or creating like a drone path where the missile would keep it would ping each drone to know where to go in the event that long-range transmissions were being interrupted from either satellite to satellite or satellite to tower. So it's more of a node-based, sort of like how cable and internet are operated or installed on residential areas through each node. Thought control is another area in which the Soviets are trying to utilize telepathy. Many modern psychologists and psychiatrists believe that the unconsciousness of man, in which ESP operates, provides part of the information which is used by men to make decisions or form opinions. So they're basically saying that the collective consciousness is what gives us, or the collective transmissions of all of us is what gives us some indication of where to go and what to do, how to think, and things like that. The Soviets would like to influence this unconscious information, fill, and thus influence world attitudes as well as those of their own citizens. We have a name blocked out, stated, B.B. Kaczynski has involved a system of using telepathy in education, not only for knowledge, but also for transforming characters. What's that asterisk for? It's been removed. Okay. Another name blocked out states that the Soviets have extended Pavlovian experiments to individual human beings, to groups, and even to societies. They are utilizing electronic computers in their experiments at giving them control of entire populations. That's pretty scary. Some developments in Soviet ESP research include a successful telepathy transmission of 12 out of 25 pictures from Moscow to Novosibirsk, 6 of which were satisfactorily received and 3 very good, with a footnote. or a reference. That's amazing. A successful telepathy experiment in which the hypnotized subject was made to fall asleep or awaken in 4 out of 5 tries. A nationwide telepathy experiment is to be carried out within the next few months. And it's got a date, 1967. So again, we know this is old research, and these studies have to have been advanced upon by now. All Soviet citizens have been alerted to this test, which will originate telepathy transmission from Moscow at scheduled times. This test has been characterized by CIA as a nationwide talent hunt. So let's step back here. First of all, this entire paragraph sort of refutes the initial introductory paragraph where there's just not much research around, or there's not enough success. But here I see them expounding upon successes, so that's a bit contradictory. There are some recent PDFs now available, as well as research from well-known institutions and universities showing that phones and mobile phones can be used to establish neural networks between people. And I have speculated on the negative side that a lot of what we're seeing with this technology rollout of 5G and things like that, that it's not a talent search, which is what the CIA says. It could be, but it's also a suppression mechanism. It would have to be. I mean, there's no way the CIA or the NSA or the military or the army doesn't sort of work all angles of whatever idea they're postulating. So if it's a matter of identifying who has talent, why are you identifying them? And then what are you going to do with them afterwards? And why are you identifying them, and how might you help facilitate their talent or hinder it? Because I mean, that's a logical response by, if you read enough of these documents, you'll see that there's just very negative reactions to it initially, and there are certain parts of the CIA and the NSA and the Army and all these people who think you shouldn't be doing this, and there are people who think you should, and that's got to create a lot of internal warring. It has to. It would have. So now we have an appendix and a bibliography of certain books. Some of these are referencing CIA reports. Well, actually, they're all CIA reports. All right, so let's go on to the next paragraph. The laying on of hands, implications for psychotherapy and the placebo effect, corrective psychiatry. This is another footnote. We're looking at books, so these are books that the CIA has read or is using as reference. The Man with a Camera Brain, Thought Transference, Aviation Week, and Space Technology. Westinghouse scientists try to harness mental telepathy. I, for one, actually think Westinghouse is still involved through my own sessions. Let's look at some of these other books. Studies in Mental Telepathy, Russia. Okay, everything's parapsychology, which is the same thing as far as they're concerned. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 4. I'm not going to go through any more. I'll just take a couple minutes to talk about these documents over here. I think these are interesting paragraphs right here where we see by spring. Let me pop up a little graphic here. By spring, the Army ACSI concluded there was sufficient evidence to warrant the development of a comprehensive program to explore military applications of psychoenergetics. He canceled the Gondola Wish effort, placed a complete security envelope over Army's interest in psychoenergetics, and implemented a new program directed towards intelligence collection using remote viewing. The new effort was given the unclassified nickname Grill Flame. And further up, we can see that the Medical Intelligence Information Agency is involved, the Monroe Institute, the Stanford Research Institute, the DARCOM agency. It's called DARCOM, which might be a reference to DARPA, I guess, or a variation of DARPA, the DIA, and Joint Service. Yeah, DIA is involved right here. The Navy expressed no interest in participating in any discussions, and later the Air Force Chief of Staff directed that the Air Force withdraw from the committee and all psychoenergetic programs. This joint services effort was formed to implement a 3-year comprehensive program designed to determine the operational parameters and usefulness of psychoenergetics and assess the threat these phenomena possess to national security. Within this joint services program, the roles of DIA and Army were distinct. DIA was R&D, research and development oriented, and INSCOM's Grill Flame project was to use remote viewing as an operational technique to collect intelligence and to determine if remote viewing could be learned by professional intelligence personnel who were not established psychics. So I don't know, I know the Navy and Air Force were still involved. I don't know why they would be withdrawn unless they, like I said, they had their own information already. Because it's pretty clear to me they would have had some sort of research to begin with, because they were involved in long-range transmissions and communications before a lot of these other groups were. They would have had to have been. They also have their own means of cryptography and encoding things, whether it be through symbols, through signage, through flags, through, there are just as many varied nuances to their processes and procedures as there is any other intelligence agency or anything like that. But I'm not going to dwell on that too much because there is other research that shows they were heavily involved in their own projects, and it might be that they felt they were just going to repeat what they already knew, or they had, what if you already had people infiltrated anyways and you were getting reports anyways, and it wasn't worth putting the money or putting the bureaucratic aspects of it into your day-to-day operations where, you're already collectively getting what you need without having to get anybody's approval or sign off anyways. So there's any number of ways you could look at that. So check out this document when you can too. And this is the end of Chapter 4, Cryptological Aspects of ESP.